Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. Yes, we're back. If you're with us for the first time, you can find us on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We're, of course, on Instagram, we're on Facebook too. And look, new intro. Same old Tottenham. What can I say? Listen, thank you so much for joining us. You are already finding your way to us if you haven't done already. Like I say, what can I say? Like I say, we're at the start of a new season. Look, we all want to have new hope, new optimism, new vibes, but Tottenham are back in our lives. So what can I say? Listen, I'm joined by, they are the A-team they're referred to here. I'm joined by the wonderful Richard Cracknell, the superb Lee McQueen, the instructor of this crazy train that's begun. I'll let Lee decide how it's begun. And we're also joined by the wonderful Chatty Patty on this Last Word on Spurs. Can't really call it therapy after one game, can we? I'll let you be the judge of that. I'm already seeing lots of comments flying through saying it's already therapy needed in the house. Let's go straight into it if we can. Macca, I am going to open up with you. Spurs draw their opening game of the Premier League season. They were so dominant in that first half, deservedly leading through Pedro Porro's header. The Vardy equaliser really changed everything, and Leicester, if we're going to be honest about it, had better chances towards the end. Definitely more work to be done for Ange Postecoglou. Poor bloke already looks like he's been through the ringer with Spurs and it's game one, match day one. Macca, a nice easy one to bring you back in. Thoughts on that game for you, Macca?
Yeah, I mean, it's a game of two halves, wasn't it? I thought we were excellent in the first half, other than putting the ball in the back of the net. Everything that you've all forgotten because of the dreadful, last 40 minutes or 35 minutes that we've just watched, we wasn't in the first half. We were very good. High press, very, very quick to the ball, huge amounts of possession, passing all over the place, shots at goal, shots on target. Obviously scored a great goal as well, great movement. It was good. It was really good. It was very, very comfortable, easy to watch. Not easy to say that, is it, Spurs fans watching the game saying, yeah, it was quite easy to watch. It was lovely. It was nice. It was great. And the only thing I think all of us said on the WhatsApp groups and, if you're on social media and whatever, as well at half time, is that is them missed chances, them not taking chances, should we say, gonna come back to haunt us? And obviously they did. And that's the reality. And I suppose the bit that irks me the most is it's the same old Spurs. I just said I was watching the game because I'm in Spain at the moment. I was watching the game with my mate 𝐂𝐀𝐬𝐧𝐭. So shout out to you, mate. I know you've just gone back. And he was, I just said to him before he left, same old Spurs, isn't it? It's plucky old Spurs, always happens to us. The rest of the top 8 go and win. They get 3 points. I think John put in the group, didn't he? Most of the big teams didn't even concede. And good old plucky Tottenham, good. What have they done? They've gone and dropped points to a newly promoted side. And it's a hard one to get away from because I suppose in that second half, I'll probably say up until the 56th, 58th minute when Vardy scored, which I'm sure we'll get into, we're still pretty good. I think we had 2 really good opportunities just before we scored as well. So we created 6 or 7 really good chances before they've gone and counter-punched us. And once they did, we couldn't get off the canvas, could we? Really couldn't get off the canvas. And it's the story of Tottenham. It is the story of Spurs. And you just got to wonder one day will it change? But look, I'm going to look on a positive as I always did. I think that the first half was excellent. If we play like that more often than not, we'll score more goals and we end up winning the football match. But unfortunately, today we didn't do that.
Yeah, do you know what, Macca? I think your analogy there I thought was so spot on. Sucker punched on the canvas, didn't quite get back up, and they never really recovered. And Cracks, if I can bring you in, I'll just give Pat a heads up, Pat. The Wi-Fi is a bit like, I suppose, the second half performance, a little bit wavy. I don't know if you want to try and come back in, my man, and come back out. Isn't it so Spurs, isn't it? It's just so Spurs. Cracks, welcome back, mate. Never a dull moment on here. Look.
Yeah, great to be back, Rick.
Bless you, mate. What an intro, and then we're back to this. Can't make it up. The other thing is, look, I'll be honest, from my perspective, we saw this exact same performance so many times last season where we had moments of real, genuine class. We don't take our chances. We then lose control, and our poor defensive structure lets us down. And I know, again, it's first match of the season. So, guys, for you telling me out there, I'm going to try my best not to overreact too much, but I get quite highly emotional about Spurs. It's one of the things in my life that really, I think we all do to some degree. We love the football club. We want to see the football club do well. But, Cracks, it was a game of 2 halves, wasn't it? I mean, it was such a very disappointing result when all things are considered because many would say it's an early lesson for the youngsters of Spurs' squad that you must take your chances, that Lee alluded to. But really, on top of that, it was such a dominant 56 minutes. And they only really had that Pedro Porro goal to show for it. It should have been much more. And in the end, really, I've got to be honest and say, and tell me if I'm wrong here, I think we were fortunate in the end to escape with really a point, because Vicario defended or denied Vardy following that goal late on. It could have been a different game and result, the way that was really momentum was shifting. Is that a big concern for you, the way that momentum shifted as soon as Leicester equalised?
Oh, it's huge, Rick. Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Spurs. It just doesn't look any different to last season to me, Rick. Just looks like the same old frailties. We've had some good personnel change, and we've managed to get rid of some of the old and bring in some new. But 56 minutes, that was very, very few of the new players, Solanke aside, that we've actually brought in. So it's just, look, the Premier League is such a difficult animal to deal with. It really is. And unless you've got every base covered and some tweaks there within, you are going to get found out. You will get found out, even by teams like Ipswich, like Leicester, and like that, that have just come up or are normally hovering somewhere around and down the bottom. Look, we didn't take our chances, and sometimes that does happen. But we also defended so poorly for that goal. It was woeful. And that's my real concern, that we just have not learned anything from last season. I mean, that's a shocking shape to be in at the back. Porro, he might as well be in Benidorm for where he is, to be honest. He's miles off of it. Romero is, I don't know what he's doing there. He's already got cover. We were all over the place for it. Okay, so sometimes you get caught with a goal like that, but then from there you go, okay, I've had a whack on the chin. I need to actually shake my head and go again. And we couldn't. We absolutely could not get up from that punch. So we just look like a boxer that's got all the moves, throws a few jabs, and then all of a sudden gets caught on the chin, and then we're done. We're absolutely done. And I don't know, Rick. It's just I need to see more from Ange Postecoglou, to be honest, with what we're doing tactically as well, because he seems to have all the answers going forward, but nothing at the back. We look very, very vulnerable. We're still vulnerable from set pieces. We saw that in pre-season. That was a vulnerability tonight, and we've succumbed to it. And being gung-ho and going forward, unless you are taking your 5-6 chances and absolutely burying teams, if you've not got the answers at the back, that's just not enough for the Premier League. Sorry, this isn't the J League. This isn't Australia, and it isn't Scotland either. This is the English Premier League, and it really does find out if you're lacking in certain departments. So he needs to find some answers, and quickly, with some of his tactical decisions and the way he sets teams out, because going away to Leicester tonight and coming away with a draw, luckily we was all praying for full time at the end. That doesn't bode well for the season. No, it should not be like that. And if you're in that position and going to Leicester away and coming away with a lucky draw at the end, really, you're going to get absolutely your arse is handed to you on a plate at some of the grounds this season. So yeah, there's some worrying signs, some really worrying warning signs, Rick.
Pat, welcome back, mate. Never a dull moment on here. Bless him. Pat has returned. Patty, we need anything right now. Listen, it was a draw, and it's not a damaging defeat, but it does feel like two massive points dropped on a weekend where really, if we're going to be honest with you, you look at the teams you would say who are going to be in and around Tottenham this season above them, all did their job as Macca ever so eloquently pointed out in the opening to this show. None of them conceded a goal. And again, as I said at the start of the show, I am one to be quite, to some degree, as we've lost Patty there. I will come back around to Lee on this point. I am one to be at sometimes overly emotive and maybe disproportionately reactionary at times. But I think the thing is that first half, Macca, as you said, there was so many positives of the way Spurs played with the ball, controlled possession, dominated. I think we'll come on to it. There's a stat out there that I think Spurs had the most possession of anybody over the course of the weekend in the Premier League in the first half alone. And I just wonder, Lee, for you, is it a fact that there's a fitness issue with regards to why we couldn't match that in the second half? Or do you think it is around the emotion of the team, that when they have a setback and they have that sign of adversity, they can't quite get to grips with it? Because I think, again, Cracker's made that point about a boxer when they get hit. We've seen boxers out there that do recover and do then go on to win the fight. But it feels to Tottenham at the moment that they can't quite recover from when they have a moment of, you'd say, adversity. Is that fair, Macca?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think that's Tottenham. That's who we are. And I think we don't like saying it, but that is the reality. The soft underbelly is back. Has it ever gone? I'm not sure. That's another debate entirely. But, on 30 minutes in that football match, Leicester had 0 shots on target, 0 shots at all. They had 1 touch in the opposition box, 1, right, in 30 minutes. Tottenham had 8 shots, 5 on target, and 20 touches in the opposition box. We had 70% possession, right? Now, that's great. If you like your stats, I love them, the Blue Book. And yes, team is here. The Blue Book is with me in Spain, of course, right? But the key stat is that we didn't score more than 1 goal at that point. We haven't scored enough goals. And that's the problem is we just bought in a £65 million man, not having a go at Dom Solanke, but he could have scored on another day. He might score 2 or 3 during that match. People were saying in the comments, and rightly so, Son wasn't on his game. Some people saying he's awful, he's washed up, this, that, and the other. But to have that amount of possession, that amount of touches, that amount of shots, that amount of touches in the opposition box, that normally yields you 2 or 3 goals. And that's the problem. Like, if they score that goal like they did and we're 4-0 up already, we ain't worrying about that goal. But that's the reality. We might have a little section on it, Rick. You might say, we need to defend better and blah, blah, blah. But we kind of gloss over it because everyone's really and we're happy days and whatever. And if we do that every game and every season, throughout the season, we win more football matches than we lose, and we probably end up in a really good position. But that's not the reality. The reality is it's the Premier League, as Cracker said. It's the Premier League. It's relentless. It's ruthless, and you have to take your chances. So, did our defence lose the game today? Sorry, it feels like a loss. Did our defence cost us the points today? Well, yeah. But did our attacking play cost us? Well, yeah. Because on another day, we score 4, we win 4-1, and no one's talking about that bad defending. But that's the fine margins that we always talk about. That's the fine margins of football. There'll be games this season with all the big boys in them as well that will end up, I think there was one last year when Man City drew 2-2 with Palace, as an example. They're expected to beat them. And there's games like that. It's just so frustrating that it always seems to be always us. It does. And that's who we are, right? It's the fabric of who we are. And we have to change that.
Yeah. I think, like you said there as well, Lee, we've waited the whole weekend, then you wait to the Monday to play. And I think in a bizarre way,
it's a slog.
But also I think the excitement is building because there's anticipation about what are we going to do differently this season? What are we going to see that changes in that second season? Look, it's only one game. Look, it's 97 and a bit minutes. And look, this one game is not going to decide the season. Many people might think it will do, but it won't. But the reality is, we said this before on this show, that if we do not sort out our defending, it's going to be very hard to win anything with this team or manager or squad, because ultimately, I think, John, very good friend of ours in the group, Lily White Rose, he made that point that you look at the teams over the weekend that have won that in and around us, they all went and got a clean sheet. You could arguably say, with no disrespect, probably they had more harder games in Tottenham. Many might have said the Leicester game going into it, and I know this again from speaking to a lot of Leicester fans, they were absolutely dreading this evening. There was a concern that had they gone 1-0 down, that the floodgates may well have opened. And Lee, you made that point there. We missed so many chances that the floodgates would have opened had Spurs got the second one, and it would have been a different game. But we all know football and the beauty of it. It doesn't work like that. And I think the biggest concern for me, as I've said in the show already, is just how quickly the momentum shifted as soon as Leicester scored. And we didn't really have an answer for it. And I think that is my biggest concern, that against a team with no disrespect that are going to be in amongst the relegation battle, we should be looking to react, come back even stronger to find a reaction. I think the lack of the reaction is concerning for me. I mean, Cracks, you look at this team, we've praised the fact that we've got a number of young technical players that are being brought through, the likes of Archie Gray, Lucas Bergvall, but coincidentally, as we saw, the change Spurs made to the 11 was obviously Dominic Solanke, that we'll come on to in a second. Do you look at this squad, Cracks, and team, and just feel it does still lack real, genuine leadership to get us over the line? I think we all agree that 𝐅𝐸𝐸 wasn't the right fit for the system in general. I think we all agree that Perisic was getting older and older, and whilst he did a job, he wasn't going to be part of the long term for Tottenham. But do you genuinely feel that there needs to be more to that midfield, where there is just that calming, reassuring presence that when we do concede a goal, we don't mentally lose it, and we find a way to be able to react and go back and win the game, Cracks?
Yeah, I think you're right, Rick. I think we seem to be missing that type of leader. I think you saw it tonight with Leicester and Vardy. He's 165 years old now, isn't he? But he knew where to be,
and
still scoring against us. But he's a wily old goat, and how good he is reflected in the comments of just how much everybody hates Jamie Vardy. Now, if you hate a player that much, unless you're a Leicester fan, you hate Jamie Vardy. And I think that speaks volumes of who he is and what he is as a player. And he was the wise old owl tonight for them. He dragged them on. This is something I'm not seeing off of Son. And he's been an unbelievable player for us. He's fantastic. And I still think he's a valuable member of our squad. Is he that type of player to drag you out of the mire and go round the team when you've given a goal away like we did on the 57th, 58th minute, and just start telling people to keep their heads and go again and calm down and just get around the team? He just doesn't look like that type of personality to me. And we do seem to miss that type of player in the side that's going to get round everybody and just, and just get hold of everyone, basically, Rick. You need a fine balance in a team. You need those that are going to be the fashion models, but you also need the machinists that are going to throw those dresses together almost, and that's the problem. We just don't seem to have that character in the side at the moment, but just looks like a natural leader to drag us out when we do come up against some adversity like we did today on the 58th minute. So yeah, there's something still just lacking a little bit from that team in that respect. And is there somebody in the ranks already that's going to be that person? Maybe, but they need to come to the fore, because I'm just not seeing that type of leadership from the bench either. I mean, you take that break in play when Bentancur received his injury, and thankfully it does seem that he's okay. And obviously all of us from the show send our best wishes to him, as we would any player that's received an injury like that. But there he is. Ange just didn't seem to be speaking to any players, sorting out what's going on, giving instructions. He was, obviously it was quite limited from the Sky coverage, but maybe he was speaking to people when the cameras wasn't on him. I don't know, but it just looks like it needs somebody in there just giving a little bit of a G up almost, on the pitch and off the pitch. We just seem a little bit lacking leaders.
We do. Patty, welcome in, my man. I want to say you've missed much, Pat. You've not really, mate. Like I say, we've just been here doing our thing that we've been doing for the last 7-8 years, and on, and on, and on, and on. Welcome back, mate. Pat, I want to go straight into you. Look, I think, can't get away from it, a really frustrating performance, a frustrating result, and I think one that it isn't the most confidence-instilling performance, really, when, I think as Crack said in his intro, the familiar frailties that we're all aware of with Spurs were almost there again. We have to believe that this is a one-off. Otherwise, we will just go simply insane if we don't believe that we're going to try and remedy some of the concerns that we've seen in this game. Because, again, it was a really positive first half, which is what I'm trying to keep saying. It was such a good first half that if we take our chances, Pat, it's a completely different affair. And we do go on to win the game 4-5, 6-1. I put the 1 there because you know Spurs are always going to concede. How do you sum up, Pat, for you, that game itself and what it makes you feeling leaving as a Spurs fan on a weekend where really, let's be honest about it, all the teams that were going to be around us did get maximum points, and Spurs are the team typically who wait to the Monday and slip up, Patty?
Yeah, first and foremost, I want to apologise. I don't know what was going on. My Wi-Fi was bugging. I thought I was all right, but then when Crackers was speaking, he was sounding robotic, so I thought maybe it's Crackers. And then when you started asking me the question, I was like, no, I had to sort
that
things out.
That was us, Pat. Robotic in the second half, mate, after conceding.
Honestly, so yeah, I just want to shout everyone out. It's a brand new season. I hope you're all well. Obviously, it's the first home game on Saturday, so I look forward to seeing as many as you as possible at the stadium and all of that good stuff. And I don't know, man. Like, it's a really weird one because the first half was so good. It was scintillating. We were absolutely, I'm not trying to go too crazy here. I'm so frustrated. I'm so annoyed. I'm so angry. I could call out so many people. I could call out Ange. I thought that he was atrocious on the sidelines today. I thought that Pedro Porro was injured, screaming to be subbed off. And the guy just left in there. He just stood there looking at him. And I'm like, Pedro Porro is clearly injured. And all the Leicester guys are going to do is spam that side of the pitch. Luckily, we got away with it. I just didn't see any, we were lucky, essentially when Bentancur got injured, it was almost like a lucky timeout. Sometimes it's like the gods are like, you lot need a break. Here, have a break, refresh and reset. And then afterwards, we kind of looked like we were in ascendancy and then we just looked flat. I literally thought from the 80th minute we weren't going to score. We didn't look like scoring, even though we had a lot of the ball. But in the first half, if I rewind it and take it back, I thought we were so good. Probably the best football I've seen all weekend. That first half was scintillating.
Yeah, it was.
We pretty much, it's so annoying because you go in at 1-0 up and you're like, okay, you're a bit but you're thinking, if we continue like this, we'll get 4 or 5. But naturally, as football goes, you can't always sustain that level of football. And we needed to score a few more whilst they were on the ropes. They were there for the taking. We should have buried them then and there. And the problem with me is that I just see, I don't want to go too early, but the same stuff that we saw last year when we were in ascendancy against Villa at home, West Ham at home, and other teams, we just don't take that control. There's no ruthlessness there. There's no killer. There's no one that sees the guy literally,
But that was Solanke. That is Solanke. Not to get on his back on game day one, not to get on his back, but we wanted a killer. We've gone and spent 65 million. Club record signing on Dominic Solanke. To be fair, could have had a hat-trick tonight. I'm not saying he missed absolute sitters, but I'm saying that, gradually as we get through the season, Dom's got to be putting those away, Patty.
You know what, Ricky? Again, the context is a beautiful thing, and it's match week 1. We're annoyed that we dropped points, but the be-all and end-all, we didn't get beat. I know sounds a bit crazy, but we didn't lose. We definitely were a better team. But we were also lucky in certain moments, like Vardy one-on-one. I think in the 69th minute, 68th minute, he should have scored. Vicario kept us in the game. Obviously, Burvell really cheaply gave the ball away. They could have scored from that. Vicario had to make a save and push the ball out to a corner. So we did ride our luck as well. But it's so frustrating because at the end of the first half, I think I wrote the stats down somewhere, and it was absolutely one-sided football. And you're just thinking, why are we not 2 or 3-0 up?
Yeah.
We should have been. Do you know what I mean? Where did I write it? I wrote it somewhere. But
you're right, though.
That first half reminded me of, just while you're finding them stats.
Yeah.
It reminded me of Luton. You remember Luton away last season?
Yeah. There you go.
Absolutely battered them. We should have been up 4-5-0 up.
In the first 10 minutes.
Obviously, we ended up winning the game, so it was slightly different. But this is my point I was making right at the beginning is because of the Luton game, we end up winning. there wasn't criticism. Roll it back, roll the tapes back, and have a look at what we were talking about after the game, what the fans were like, and on social media and so on and so forth. It's not a bit about this because he got sent off and whatever. But the reality is that results are, I suppose, to come back to Craig's point right at the beginning, the results are the ones that we were crying out for different football. And as Pat just said, the first half we were absolutely scintillating. We were superb. But we didn't put the ball in the back of the net, and that ultimately is what's cost us. Sorry, Pat, to interrupt me.
No, it's all right. I think first half we were really good. Everyone was involved in the play. Solanke had touches, Son had touches. I liked that Son was hugging the touchline. He was taking on his man. I saw Sarr looking energetic and really good. Everyone was comfortable. We looked like a really good unit. 10 shots, 5 on target, 9 corners in the first half. Touches in the opposition box, 22 to their 1. 7 crosses, 73% possession, 1-0 up. You're frustrated that you're not more, but you're like, it's the first half of the first season, of the first game back. Cool, you'll take it and you move on. But we just didn't seem to move on. And unfortunately, in this league, like if you don't take your chances, you're always going to give the other team an opportunity. And once they scored, we were hanging on. Udogie, for me, really poor game today. I'm sorry. He was so shaky. He was making silly fouls. Once they scored, his head was gone. And he just looks really rusty and out of the loop. And I'm like, what's going on? This guy's meant to be a quality left back. How can you not defend? And against Leicester, with all due respect, this team is not good. And if you look at the team that went down compared to the team that played today, it's chalk and cheese. And they had us on the ropes, man. They should have and could have won that game in the second half.
Yep.
If we're being honest. And really concerning. I think Ange tactically, fuck me, just do something different. Honestly, Werner coming on, doing absolutely F all. I'm like, why have we re-signed this guy? The guy can't beat his man, can't get across it.
But we had the same conversation.
Honestly, I just can't understand it. And then I see him with Richarlison. It's not a sitter, but at least get the ball on target. And it just reminded me of
he could have won that. Yeah, I think he's a sitter. I think that is a sitter.
It just reminded me of all of our frustrations in the last quarter of this. When we lost 5 out of our last 7 games, everything that just flashed before my eyes again, and I'm like, it's like deja vu, like literally. It's you know what the thing is, I don't want to go too early, but I'm fed up of people saying that we're happy clappers and we're this and that. We are honest and real, and what I saw today was atrocious. Like, you shouldn't be dropping points to Leicester when you're that in control of the game. Like, cool, if it's a slugfest and it's back and forth and you're like, cool, we got a point, we get away with it, we're away. They were up for it. The crowd was flat. We had total control of the game. How do you not put them to the sword? Like, sorry, there's no excuses.
And I think the one thing you knew, Pat, is that the one thing you didn't want to give them is any kind of momentum shift to the crowd, because to be fair, that crowd were waiting for something to lift them, because to be honest,
they were out of the game, man.
Like I said at the start of the show, Pat, Leicester fans were really not looking forward to the start of this season. They were not massively... I don't speak for all Leicester fans. I'm not a Leicester fan. It's not a Leicester channel. But, there was a split between if they really wanted Steve Cooper, because, again, they were linked with Graham Potter, so the appointment wasn't probably who they wanted. But by Vardy scoring, who is their absolute hero, that absolutely galvanised the crowd. And it worried me how much we, as a team, wilted and didn't really show a response. And, we've done Last Word On Spurs for so many years, with so many different managers, with so many different teams and squads, and not to age you boys here, that
Rick, do you know what tonight's game was like? It was like one of them tired old Bond movies, wasn't it? Where we had James Bond in handcuffs, like double roped, hanging over a shark tank, and all of a sudden we go, no, I'm not going to kill you, Mr. Bond. I'm going to release you, and I'm going to take you to a casino. And I want you to die in a very different way and in a glamorous way. And then that's just put a bullet in his head, man. We can all go home and the film's over and it's finished. We are like James.
It's such a predictable, though, isn't it? It's such a predictable movie.
We're like Bond baddies, aren't we? Tie him up. He's done. He's finished. Put a bullet in his head and carry on with your world domination from some island that you've bought and built like a stockade in. No, I want you to die in a technical, really bizarre way. And he gets out of it. And that's exactly what we've done at Leicester tonight. We're like James Bond baddies.
Never known Spurs. Do you know what, if you told me before the show that Spurs would be compared to James Bond, I thought I've got a nice, easy night here. I haven't got to worry too much, and we're reviewing like a 5-6-1 win. But such the nature of Spurs, it isn't to be the case. What we are going to do, we are going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners and audio. We've already got we've got over 7,000 of you that are watching this show live. Look, you guys have been unbelievable through the summer, whilst the likes of Crackers, Lee and Pat have had my back. And now I'm back. Look how happy I am.
Mate, you're doing all right, to be fair. Rick, you're looking
mate.
pretty happy considering so.
Oh, well, you know what? I've just thought it's the first game of the season. If I lose my shit now, what am I going to be like by the League Cup third exit?
I was going to say, just about to say, you went to the Carabao Cup exit, fella.
At least you don't take the Carabao Cup away from me at the moment. We're
Rick,
still in all
at least tonight's shirt's decent. Last night's was an absolute scoundrel. That was a shocker of a
someone
shirt.
saying he pulled it out the Strictly wardrobe. Ricky Norwood let it
Honestly,
not the boots though. Not the boots. Not the boots.
I have to shop at Giacomo, so my choices are limited. You've got no excuse for wearing that. Let me tell you.
Oh, I didn't pay the rent this week, Craxton. That's just gave me what I could get in the wash. That was my life. What I will just quickly do is a reminder here on Last Word on Spurs that, look, we are very lucky to have NordVPN once again back as our main sponsors for the season. If you're not aware by Nord and what they do as a service, they host, obviously, in a number of different ways to enhance your internet experience. Maybe not Tottenham. I can't guarantee it's Tottenham that will enhance your experience, but they are the fastest VPN in the world, which means there's no buffering, there's no lagging. You can stream your favourite shows anywhere in the world without your bandwidth struggling. You can use Nord to set your device to think you are back in the UK, which means you can watch your favourite shows wherever you are around the world. And just to let you know, the outlay for a cost of a Nord subscription is cheaper for you in the long run because you can purchase streaming services from other countries at a much cheaper rate. It also allows you to change your location services. If you're looking to book a flight and get away from Spurs already this early, I wouldn't blame you. We're game day 1, Everton to come on Saturday. You'll be tearing yourself away. Hopefully by then, fingers crossed we're not. But it's a really clever app that I say really good if you're on the move. You want to obviously enhance your security. And look, we're delighted. Nord have been with us for the last 4 or 5 years. You know, many people use them, not just only on the pod, but around the world. So look, we have got a discount code that we're running through the season, nordvpn.com/LWS. We're going to give you 4 extra months for free on a 2-year plan. There is no risk with Nord's 30-day bet money guarantee. And you'll, of course, help the podcast in general by, of course, going to Nord and that discount link. Right. Do want to bring in, if I can, Ange Postecoglou's comments that he has made after the game. This is straight, fresh from the presser, in which Ange has commented about the game and said, disappointing outcome, very dominant first half, really wasteful in front of goal. We started the second half similar. First 15, 20 minutes were very dominant, but you know at 1-0 there's always an opportunity for the opposition to come back into the game. That's what happened, and we lost our way for 15 or 20 minutes. We lost our composure, and the crowd got behind them, and again, finished strong. Just really disappointing. We lacked a little cutting edge in that front third. We made some poor decisions, lacked some composure, and didn't get the reward our football deserved. And I just want to come on to Ange in general, because again, I've seen a mixture of comments that have come into the show. Some suggesting, if I come round to maybe Lee on this point, Lee, that you can't blame Ange, because in that first half alone, if we take our chances, we're 4-5, 6-0 up. I've seen similar, again, comments to negate that against Ange, saying the tactics are very predictable, didn't really change much. Although, again, I will remind everybody, he made a quadruple sub in the second half. So just to cover this point on Ange in regards to where we're at, Maka, you're putting your hands up there. Tell me what you mean by that and what you think of Ange on the subs in general. Did he get it wrong today?
He made 6. He made 6 subs. He changed half the team. Yeah, that's fact. He put 6 people on because we got a concussion sub. So, you know, look, can he mix it up? Does he change it up? I mean, well, no, he doesn't do it too much. But, you know, again, coming back to what you said before, does he need to mix it up too much when we had all them chances? We had 22 touches in the opposition box in the first 30 minutes of the game. Like, we absolutely battered them for the entire first half. But we just didn't score. And that is the problem. That is the issue. Like, I'm not quite sure whether there's the right balance there, the leadership issues that you guys spoke about earlier in the show. Is it a one-player thing? I actually don't think it is. I think that Ange is now experiencing the same thing every other manager experiences when they manage his football club. Everyone. It's the same thing. Like,
But what is that?
we
Is
are
that not being back fully in the window? Is it more than that? What is that, Macca? What is that? Because you're coming to that point that I think many are kind of putting their finger upon.
Backing in the window. Like, we'll never really know what backing in the window is.
Right.
Did Ange Postecoglou want Archie Gray? So if he really did, and all the stories were coming out from the journalists, really good journalists, by the way, last week, the week before, when in South Korea, they're talking about the staff are raving about Archie Gray. He's amazing. He's right. We didn't start. Well, if he's not going to start against a championship side, let's have it right. Basically, every single player that played today for Leicester City was in the championship last year. If he's not starting for them for us tonight, they can't be raving about him that much, can he? I suppose that's a question. Maybe it's a loaded question, but so maybe he didn't want Gray. We never know. Did he really want Dominic Solanke? Well, he's come out and said he did exactly what the data said that he did. So if he did, then the board's backing him, aren't they? Like paying a record transfer fee for a guy that he wants, or does he want him? I mean, there's no right or wrong answer to that. We'll never know, Rick, and that's the hardest thing.
Lee, I don't think managers buy players anymore. I really don't. I think the days of like Keith Birkinshaw and Alex Ferguson and Bill Nick and Brian Clough and yada, 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 they don't buy players anymore. I think this is done by committee and council now. You have a director of football. You have like these data analysis. You have the manager. And I think you now have a council of a team behind the scenes that go out and bring players in. So I don't think there's one manager in the league that goes out and buys players. I think that's dead. I think that's gone. That's long gone as a way of thinking in football now. I do believe it is literally a team that go out and bring these players in. So I just don't think you can level that at any manager.
No, and this is the thing. We're searching, aren't we? Right? You know, at the end of the day, you know, you're looking for something, a reason behind it. It has to be one reason. Like typically, it's not just one thing. It's lots of different things. Like I said, I've said many times on the show, even tonight. We've created so many chances today and haven't scored. If we score them chances and win the game 4-1, we're not having this conversation. The comments are completely different. I'm not a clown anymore because I'm a big clown, by the way, at the moment. So I'm not a clown anymore, this, that, and the other. You know, and that's fine. You know, everyone's got their opinion. But the reality is that we didn't score the goals. So we're searching for a reason. And Rick, you asked a question like, well, what is it? I don't know. We're soft underbelly. We roll over too quickly. We don't get up from the canvas. The analogy that Cracker said earlier, like, what is it, Crackers, Pat, Rick? What is it that stops us being ruthless? Is it experience? What is it?
Can I quickly come in on this? You know what? When I look at the recruitment this summer, I know it's game one, but I'm not impressed when I see so many kids coming on at the same time. Archie Gray, 18. Burville, 18. I just don't see the lead. I don't see someone that can really take the game by the scruff of the neck and really get us across the line. And, you know, Werner coming on. Maybe before, when the games, when I looked at that lineup before it was announced, I was like, yeah, you know what, this bench looks really good and blah, blah, blah. But then when I see it in fruition in front of me, it was crap. Like when we really needed to go out and win that game, and I'm just seeing Werner spamming crosses, this guy not able to control the ball. And Archie Gray didn't look composed on the ball today. I'm sorry for all the stuff I'm hearing about how good he is and this and that. He wasn't that great, let's be honest. And Burville, nice few touches, but again, he really lacked that composure to really. And people are going to say, oh, it's game one, they're 18, 19. Why are we recruiting all these teenagers? Are we not trying to? Ange Postecoglou before the game is saying, oh, it's my second season and then my second season. With that squad, you ain't doing that. Sorry, not in this league. Unless you do some tactical, amazing master, like you just become a genius overnight, like Pep Guardiola. I can't see it. And it's frustrating, man. I just think the recruitment hasn't been good enough and we are where we need to be again. Like we're just where we were before. Like, we all wanted Eze. We all wanted the players that we thought could get us across that line. This guy is big Dominic Solanke so much, and I'm believing it. I'm buying into the story. I'm buying into the trajectory. He's hungry. He's this. He's that. And it's his first game. I get it. And I'm not going to go too in on him. I thought he was good today. And obviously there's, we've watched Harry Kane have games like that where he does all the right things, but he doesn't score. You've seen Haaland do it. So I can't get onto him too much. I think he did everything he needed to do other than score. But when I'm seeing the second string come in to really do something to win us the game, I'm not buying it. I'm sorry. Right now, when I look at that, I'm not buying it. And we've got to go up against Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, at least. And then you've got all the other teams. And unless something changes drastically, and I know it's match week 1, but I don't know, man. I'm not convinced. I really am not. So I'm hoping there's some masterclasses pulled off. But and we've got older boys as well. Another teenager, another 19-year-old. I'm sorry. What is the plan? I thought he's trying to win this season. So why are you bringing like 10 teenagers? I don't get it.
Is it an Ange thing, like to go back to Cracker's point and the wider point, right? And again, just to clarify, I'm not criticising the 18-year-olds coming in. I think they're good players. I think they're going to be good players.
Because
players right now. Do you know what I mean?
Like, I'm sorry, it's not. I don't know, man. I'm without of course they might be good players in 5 years or 3 years, but what about now? Like,
yeah, that's the point. So
proven player,
Yeah. So is it have they the committee, the board, the people, the recruitment team, all the players, all the people that are there, have they just said to Ange, we know that you're inadvertently, we know that you're not the right man, so we're going to recruit these kind of youngsters because we're not going to give you the tools that you need. Now, like, not being funny about it, like, we had Conte, right, who was the polar opposite of Ange, the polar opposite of the way that he played ball and everything like that. That he goes in, he ridicules your club, tells you you're crap, says that loads of people love it. Oh, he's telling it how it is and all that. And some of the stuff he was saying was true. We don't win a trophy in 15 years and 16 years, and he was spitting some facts. But there's certain ways of going about it to get the best out of it. He's rocked up at Napoli and just lost 3-0. Like his first game.
I think
so what is it? That was the question right at the beginning, is what is it? It's not an overreaction to today's game. It's what we're saying is nothing seems to have changed. Ange was brought in to roll and change. Now, if he was just brought in to change the style of football, unequivocally he has done that. Unequivocally, no one can argue the toss with him.
You can't argue
right?
that.
He is unequivocally done it. But if he's coming to change our fortunes and win trophies, which is what he's saying he's doing, which is what I don't want to ridicule our manager for saying I want to win stuff and I'm going to get Tottenham to win stuff. I want my manager saying that. That's what I want. I don't want my manager saying we are fucking miles off it. We're never going to win shit.
I
don't want that.
No,
do you see what I'm saying? So I want that belief in it. But what is the problem here? What is the problem?
I think this is a really good point here that
Lee,
coming in from the offside rule, I can just say I really like how our expectations of Spurs fans have changed. We were literally okay with a draw in our first game last season against Brentford. This one really felt like a defeat. And I think, you know what the thing is that I just think because of the nature of around Leicester, there was a feeling that they were going into the season really underprepared. I think if you looked at their pre-season, hadn't had a great pre-season. They went into the end of this week with last week with a number of injuries that, let's be honest about it, Jamie Vardy went to Steve Cooper and said, I'm going to play for you because you haven't got another striker fit. Like, he put himself up for consideration for selection. I mean, I know it's his 9th goal against Spurs. We're going to come on to that in just a second. But the reality is that Leicester, to some degree, were really squad thin. And that's why, again, you saw that reaction when they equalised, because no one really gave him a chance in that game. Everyone thought Spurs were going to turn up, brush Leicester away. And that first half really was an indication that the game was there for the taking. And that's why, again, like the debate around Ange is fascinating, because can you really say that it was all on Ange tonight? Because if Spurs take their chance in the first half, they go and comfortably win the game 4-5-6-1. I think the concern for me is that when I look at the second half and the way we stepped off it, the emotional side of our squad is really showing for me that we need somebody that's going to take a firm grip of a game, as Pat actually alluded to, that's a real leader, a dominative player in midfield that's going to calm things down in that moment of hysteria and get us back on track. And I don't really see that. And I think, again, my worry again is that when I look at the substitution in the second half, our response to Leicester scoring and the crowd in the way in which they reacted being so up is that we make a quadruple substitution. Now you can look at that two ways. You can look at number one, it's really good to see that we are trying to change the game by making a magnitude of subs. Number two, you could say, is that a bit of a desperational tactic to make 4 changes like that and the profile of those players coming on? And that's why, again, I come away from the game with more questions than answers. And I want this season to actually be more answers than questions. Does that make sense? In this second season, as we've said, it's only game 1. That's why I'm trying to keep calm, because we're not out of any cups yet. And that's why I'm so calm at the moment, because we are so calm, because it is only game 1. It is only a draw. We haven't been thumped 5 or 6-1, but I think the concern that I see from a lot of the people that are viewing and watching the show and listening is that there are the same frailties there from last season that we haven't quite picked up on. And I think that is where fans are going to become frustrated, back to Lee's point, that you said, Lee, and you're right, mate, they've completely and unequivocally with Ange changed the brand of football. But that still isn't enough for a lot of fans. They want to feel that when Ange comes out and says the words, I want to challenge for trophies in my second season, we generally feel that. And I think at the moment, let's be honest about it, we don't feel like that because of the nature of the goals that we're conceding, the frequency of them. And that was only one tonight, but you look at the course of pre-season, very similar reoccurring goals. I appreciate it's not all the same players that have been on at the same moment. It wasn't the, back 4 that have started all those same pre-season games, but it's the nature of those goals being conceded. Pat, I'll let you come back in, then we'll get into the game, some of the highlights from it, Patty.
I think my frustration with our recruitment is that it's always too much of one thing and not enough of another. Like, it's not balanced enough. We've gone from, obviously, like, we had Perisic, we had some older veterans and people that know the game and have been there at the highest level, and we brought them in so we could essentially win now. So they were almost past the hill, like past their best. And now we've gone the opposite way completely, and we've gotten so many youngsters. Bergville, Mikey Moore's going to be promoted, and this is nothing against them because they're all talented players. You can see that Archie Gray and Odeberg, but
I agree with you. I agree.
They're all young. Like,
are they for now, Pat?
Like,
That's the key thing.
I need some players that can get on the ball, dictate the game, essentially like Bentancur. When Bentancur went off, we lost control of that game. But there's no one else that can do what he's doing. Kulusevski came on and looked really good. My question to Ange is, why did he not start the game? Like, I'm sorry, Kulusevski was probably our best player
after such a pre-season. I think
exactly.
3 assists, 3 goals in the 6 games.
And honestly, you could see the quality in him. When he came on, even the guy like, that's such a good turn, there's this, that. Annoyingly, he basically spun his man, got knocked over twice, still was in possession, and was in an advantageous position, and the ref pulled it back. That was his mistake. He should have allowed it to go on. But other than Kulusevski, I didn't really see anyone. Bergville had a few good touches, so sorry, I'm lying a bit. But yeah, I don't know. The recruitment is just too much of one and not enough of another. Give me someone that can come in, and this is what I was saying to you guys in the summer, and unfortunately, it's coming to fruition. I said I needed players that can come in and make our starting 11 better. As it stands right now, we've only got one in. That's Dominic Solanke. And this is the problem. Like, there's not enough players that have come in and improved our first 11. And we're seeing it right now. And people, it's only match week 1, but it's already there.
Yeah. And the thing is,
everything, Rick, everything is a balance. It's a balance. Everything throughout is balance. If you want to bring some youngsters in, that's fine. Of course, we love to see that. But then you have to balance that off with some more experienced older heads. If you want to be a manager that's going gun-ho and trying to win games by outscoring the opposition, that's fine. But have the balance of also being mindful of what you're doing in defence. And this is what didn't happen today. He's a friend of mine, Rico, bless him, lovely bloke. He said to me, just as the game finished, he sent me through a voice note, and he literally,
just to confirm, Rico.
No, he's not. Thankfully, he'd be like Jekyll and Hyde. He literally gave me Ange's post-game press conference as a voice note. I bet he says this, and guess what? He said it. Now, with the Premier League, if you're going to go and try and score 4 or 5 goals to kill a game, that's fine, but that's not enough. It isn't enough. You better have plan B ready in case exactly what happened tonight. that you only bury one of those goals. And let's face it, we didn't exactly bury that either, did we? I mean, that was quite a lucky little sort of shoulder head that he got onto it, and it's gone in. It had been coming, but then nothing else did. So you have to have a little plan B ready for that moment where all of a sudden they pick your pocket and they nick one. And that's what we've not got. So that's the balance that Ange hasn't got. And there's the balance that we haven't got in that squad of the old players, the old YZs and the young. It is a blend and a balance, a blend and a balance. And I think it's off. I think it's off on the pitch, and I think it's off in the dugout as well. And that's what needs addressing. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, listen to this lot. It's match day one. It isn't match day one as such, because it's just what we saw all last season. So, look, if we get to match day 8, 9, 10 of this season, and we're still seeing these frailties and this type of nonsense going on, then something has to change. Something really has to change in what we're doing to get that balance correct. It's off at the moment.
Yeah, and also, Cracks, I mean, again, we have to remember he's actually changed a couple of coaching staff members there. He's had a bit of new blood come in. You'd like to think with new coaching staff, there'd be new ideas being shared around, there'd be new perspective, and there'd be a bit of a change maybe in the way we're looking to play, or we're looking to, try and change that mindset around the goals we're conceding. Look, again, I don't want to get too carried away. It's a 1-1 draw. It's the nature of who we're playing and the way that second half faded out.
Depends how much he listens to them, though, Rick, doesn't it? It depends how much Ange is listening to those coaches coming in. He might need them now, but if they're offering him advice and tips and a little bit of what their thoughts are, and he's like, well, no, I'm doing it my way, thank you very much, then they may as well not be there. Again, it's another part of that blend where you're taking on a little bit of counsel and a little bit of advice and a little bit of almost dissent. If Ange says, I think we need to do this, this and this, he needs some people in his backroom staff to say, no, sorry, I don't see it that way. I'm offering you up this opinion. And it all depends how he takes on board that opinion, and if he acts on it. If he just dismisses it out of hand, they may as well not be there. So it's all about taking a little bit of advice. I take advice from my kids. Like, they're 16, 20, 23 and 26 years old. But when there's something I don't know about, and I speak to one of my kids and I know that they know, I'll take their advice on board. I'm 55 years old. But I'll take advice off of people that know what they're doing and know a little bit about things, and that's what makes a successful blend, I think.
All I would hope, Cracks, is, again, when you look at some of the comments he said after the game here, this comment's been very kindly shared to us. Ange said it was an issue we had last year. We need to keep working hard and be more ruthless in front of goal. At times we made poor decisions. And I look back also, he's just given another comment to, I think, PA, where he said, in regards to the game, everyone performed well, but ultimately that defeats the purpose of what we're trying to achieve. Win games of football and bridge the gap with the top teams. We need to turn good performances into outcomes. I also wonder, as much as we get frustrated with Ange at sometimes, if also he's frustrated with some of the players, because, again, when you look at the lineup, and we'll come on to the lineup in a second because we're nearly an hour into the show, that, I mean, again, bar Solanke in the lineup, I mean, there wasn't a huge amount of change. Again, you look at the team that Spurs selected there, pretty much the same as last season, not real wholesale changes. And again, I will remind you, this was the manager, just to let you know, that called for mass change last season. He said we need change, not only in the squad, but in obviously around maybe in the coaching staff. He's had a couple of additions in terms of that. But in terms of the team that Spurs lined up with there, again, we know, obviously, just to give everybody an update if they're not aware already, Oliver Skipp has now completed his move to Leicester City. He was in attendance for, of course, the Midland side this evening, where, again, he was announced to the, obviously, fans, and they would like to see Skippy there. He's now completed that move to Leicester City. But in general for Tottenham, there's not a huge amount that's changed in terms of that 11, which, again, goes back to Pat's point around the frustration. Just to give everybody an update as well, supposed later signing Wilson Odebear is not available yet after his £30 million move from Burnley. Is still awaiting a work permit to be sanctioned. So you would hope that he will have that in place between now and the Everton game at the weekend. But as we saw in that team, summer fellow arrivals, Archie Grant, Lucas Bergvall, were on the bench in what was, got to say now, you've got to say to some degree, a fairly stronger bench than we had at the back end of last season. You had the likes of Radu Dragusin on there, the returning Richarlison and Timo Werner. And I think the big surprise for everybody was, and I'll come on to this, that Dejan Kulusevski only started on the bench after a strong pre-season. Yves Bissouma, suspended by the club, obviously following that laughing gas incident. And of course, we had Rodrigo Bentancur starting in the midfield with Pat Matassar and James Maddison returning to the King Power Stadium for the first time since his move. So Spurs' team read Vicario, Porro, Romero, Van der Ven, Udogie Sarr, Bentancur, Maddison, Johnson, Solanke, Son, with a bench of Austin, Dragusin, Spence, Davis, Gray, Bergvall, Werner, Kulusevski, Richarlison. On this point, if I come round to you, Pat, you mentioned it actually in your debrief at the start of the show. How surprised was you to not see Kulusevski in that lineup, given he's probably been the strongest performer for Spurs in pre-season? 6 games performed, 3 goals, 3 assists. And on the bench, Pat, was that slightly bemusing for you to see him on the bench for this one?
Yeah, this is where I can be critical of Ange, and I'm just saying that obviously he wants, touchline wingers that are pacey and this and that, but Kulusevski had to start, and the obvious glaring weak spot, or whatever you want to call it, was Brennan Johnson. Kulusevski should have started in Brennan Johnson's place. Brennan Johnson today, for me, was really poor. Couldn't control the ball. His first touch was atrocious. He was just making silly decisions, and you get that with Brennan Johnson. He's still raw. He's still, I've defended this guy like to the cows come home. I'm in all the group chats. They're getting on to me about him, and I'm like, listen, the guy got 15 GA last year. I'm having Chelsea fans and this fan, and I'm like, he had better output than all your wingers. But the reality is, obviously, between us as Spurs fans, I'm always going to defend my own, but he wasn't good today. And it's the same stuff I'm seeing all the last year when the guy's so frustrating. He can be so good in one game and then so poor and mediocre in another. And I'm seeing Kulusevski with a feathered touch, scoring goals, bringing people into play, the right way to pass, like everything you'd want from your player. And everything that I needed from Brennan Johnson today, I didn't see it. So I'm just like, why does Ange keep persisting with this guy when he's not showing me what he needs to show me? Like, we've got options. That was a weird one for me. It was really odd how he still managed to play such a long part in this game when he just didn't look at it today. And, I hate it because I'm here when we're here and it's game match day 1 and we're doing all of this, and it shouldn't have been away. But when you throw away a game like that, and they even said it at the end of the game, that 1 point will feel like a loss. It does feel like a loss because that game was in the bag. It was there for the taking, and we should have took it. And it worries me a bit because for you to be a top team, you need to be ruthless. You need to look the opposition in the eye and go for the kill. And we didn't do that today. We played with them. Like Cracker said, it was a great analogy. It's like, the villain when he starts talking to the superhero and telling them his cunning plan and how he's going to take over the world. And like, the guy's still alive. And then the guy gets out and he goes down, and that plan is foiled. And that's what we did today, man. We just let them back into that game. Like, they were there for the taking. The crowd was flat. When the away crowd is that flat and you don't kill them off, you know there's going to be a chance. Yeah, you got to. And then we're almost conceding. I'm seeing Vicario go nuts at Bergvall. They're saying, he shouldn't do that. He's a youngster. No, he should. That was criminal what Bergvall did there. And you can't do that at this league. And hopefully these are big learning curves. Hopefully sometimes you need a wake-up call. Hopefully the board see this and say, you know what, we're still short. And Ange can see it and say, you know what, I need to change this. I'm just hoping and praying that this is the wake-up call, the slap round the face. And it's better for it to come now than match day 10 or 11 or 12. But honestly, like, it's really concerning. And I'm like, we've got Everton at home. And obviously Everton are much better than Leicester. And they had the bit between their teeth after getting smashed on the weekend. And I just don't need to see these teams come here and do a number on us. Like, it's not. Second season, I need to see more. And obviously, like you said, better quality on the bench. But when they came on, they didn't really do much. So that needs to change as well. But it is match day 1, and we're all frustrated and annoyed and angry. And pre-match or post-match podcasts are great because it's real, raw emotions. But sometimes we can get a bit carried away, and we just, need to calm down a bit.
Yeah, I get it. It's really hard. I mean, I think the one thing that we try and always do on this show, and again, I know people love us for doing these shows after the game, is we are always searching for that balance. It's not easy to find that because, again, we're all raw, emotive fans that want to see the club win, and we've waited a long time for this club to win in general, when I talk about the generalisation to it. But at the same time, as Crack says, you want to feel that you're seeing something that's building, evolving, growing, changing for the positive. And I think when you've waited, like I say, you know, all weekend and that Monday to play, and everybody's played and you're waiting to play, you almost build up this excitement about what am I going to see that's going to be different about this Spurs side that's going to excite me. And I think that first half, really, we were excited. There were some great passages of play that we've touched upon, some great patterns of play as well. And again, it boils down to the fact that you've got to take your chances. And again, when I look at that first half along the way Spurs started the game, I will just say as well, if I can, lovely touching tribute to Craig Shakespeare, passed away far, far too young, can I just say again. I mean, we have to, just for a moment there, remind ourselves, whilst, of course, football is the pressing subject on this show, a man's lost his life. They're far, far too young. And it's just so sad to see that a man that was involved in the game not too long ago. Lovely moment for James Maddison, placing flowers on the touchline of the build-up. But Spurs really started with genuine chances. We had, obviously, Bentancur first. We were flicking from a corner that was superbly actually cleared from underside the bar. We had Romero going fairly close with a header just far wide of the right-hand post. We got the good, the bad, the ugly of Brennan Johnson, as Patty's touched upon during this show. There was an excellent silent challenge. He then falled over, then hacked down Victor Christensen, all in the space of about 10 seconds. Solanke got an effort. He got up well, but his header after Porro's cross was towards the goalkeeper. But Spurs did open the score, and it had been coming. James Maddison cutting a lovely ball, and Pedro Porro in a striker position headed it past the goalkeeper. I will just, if I can, just break away, just try and talk about a positive for a second if I can. Maka, I'll come to you. I think Porro is one of those players that no one really can argue. We have seen a real genuine improvement from this guy since he's walked through the door. We'll come on to defensively and the way Spurs conceded that goal very, very shortly. But when you look at the stats out there for Pedro Porro and what he's achieved in a Spurs shirt to date, he's scored 7 goals since the 22-23 Premier League season. No defender has scored more. No player created more chances in the opening 45 minutes than Pedro Porro. And no defender's been directly involved in more Premier League goals since the start of last season than Porro. 7 assists, 4 goals. He scored back-to-back in the Premier League games for the first time. At that moment, Lee, I'm sure you agree with me, mate. We thought we were probably going to go on and win this game comfortably, but we are Spurs and we are not allowed to have nice things.
That's what it feels like, isn't it? But all them stats you just read out, none of them are about defending. And I think that's quite interesting. Like, without being negative on Porro, because I love him and he's coys, but he's a right back. And every stat you've just read out, and there's a reason why the right backs haven't scored as many goals as him, and there's a reason why right backs haven't done this and haven't done that. And the reason is because they're right backs. Do you know what I mean? Let's be honest about it. So, look, it's great that he's going forward and that kind of thing and popping up. And it was an excellent run, to be fair. I thought it was, you know, whether it come off his head, his ear, his neck, his shoulder, it was an excellent run, to be brutally honest. But he is a defender and, you know, he goes down the other end. It's a little bit like Lamella, isn't it? He scores a Rabona in the North London derby. It's absolutely amazing goal he scores in the COVID times. And then he goes and gets sent off. And, you know, you look at that with Porro, great goal, puts us on our way. And then where is he for the for the goal that they did actually score in their equaliser? It's just, look, that whole raw emotion piece is definitely there. Look, I thought my glass is always half full. I mean, to go in as hard as what I see some of these people writing in comments is mental. If I'm really honest with you, and you know, yes, it's a lot of raw emotion, but the reality is that some of these players are not good enough today in the game. But, you know, they will be next week or the week after. One of them might go and get a hat-trick. And then, you know, and that's sometimes the nature of football. I think, are we seeing an improvement? Have we seen an improvement in the football? In that, again, it's a game of two halves. In that first half, in that first 55 minutes, 56 minutes, if you like, I definitely saw an improvement of where we were. I mean, I go every single game at home, and I went to every single game under 15 different managers in one season that we had, you know, the Stellinis, the Contes and all this stuff. And the football was completely different. Everyone I spoke to during these post-match shows and during the stadium, and the football was absolute turgid. And we were still getting beaten. Like, so don't start saying, yeah, but, you know, we were winning. We weren't. We were getting beaten, and we finished 8th, and we were shocking. So, yeah, I've seen an improvement. Is it good enough to improve against the Man Cities, the Arsenals? Well, no, we're miles off that. We're absolutely miles off that. But also, we're not that far off of making a few adjustments, tightening up certain things. We've still got a couple of weeks in the transfer window to take it from 68 points to 78 points. And, you know, forget Arsenal and Man City's and what they're doing and Man United. Think about what we're doing and can we improve? Can we get to 72 points? Can we get to 75 points? Because we did last year get 68 points. We're, as Pat said on the last show, or one of the shows you did in a preview show, we were one win away from the top four. And that was last season.
I think also, Mac, you make that point there so greatly on this point, Mac, that for me, when you look at the fact, and again, I don't want to get people excited or, you know, again, too hyperventilating, but when you get results like this and the window is still open, it gives you a reminder that you can go and improve the squad and actually try and bring in their genuine first-team players. Do I think Spurs will do that? Obviously, I don't think they will. I think if I'm listen, I hope I'm really wrong. I really do. I think the majority of Spurs' business is now done. I think what they are now doing, Spurs, like they do a lot in the market, is searching for unique opportunities where they can maybe pounce and see what's out there in the market.
Rick, you are the transfer guru, right? You do all the shows. Genuine question here. Like you just said there, and I'm not having a go at you, it's just a genuine question.
Yeah.
You just said there, you know, I think what Spurs are doing. No. I think what Spurs are doing is what they always do. They're looking around the market and pouncing. If they're doing what they always do, why are we expecting a different result? And if they are doing what they always do, the team of people that Crackers just mentioned earlier in the show, which are completely different to under Conte, which are completely different to under Poch, that are completely different to under Redknapp.
Yeah.
What is the common denominator? And that's a loaded question, but the reality is...
But we know, disrespect. And we say it so often. We know, unless there's going to be a significant change on that board, then it's going to really change in terms of the dynamic and shift to Tottenham. I think, again, we've been very clear on that on the show. And for those that want to call us happy clappers or we're Levy-ins, I mean, I think...
Levy mouthpieces. Levy mouthpieces.
I can't make it any more clearer. I mean, the reality is until there is a significant change at board level, this is what we've got. You know, again, and there's no disrespect. I mean, this is where Spurs are. They're always, for me, going to be in every window coming away from it. Always 2 or 3 players away from genuinely really challenging. Can they spend more money to bring us closer? Absolutely they can do. And Pat said it earlier. The only player that we've brought in that really does affect the first 11 is Nominate 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸. But really, you look at that 11 tonight, and I think it shows you with Ange's selection really tells you everything. He's picked the same, despite having Archie Gray, Lucas Bergvall come through the door, Jed Spence, who again has got a redemption to him and he'll obviously feature throughout the season, and still feels with all those signings that we've made that are great young technical players, 10 out of the 11 players are still exactly the same as last season, despite the man being absolutely clear there needs to be change. Not just change in terms of the team, but also the coaching staff. And I think that tells you everything. But what I will just say to caveat that for a second, because I haven't said this yet, and this is really important. Ange did say in his embargo presser that every player that comes in, he says yes and no to. So again, you can then maybe throw it back to Ange to say, well, maybe you should be demanding more. But it's the same man that's coming out and telling us that he wants to win titles. He wants to be involved. And, you know, we want to do things in the second season. I want to ask about James Maddison, Cracks, if I can, coming over to you. James, of course, for that assist for Porro, has now been directly involved in 26 goals.
Ricky, sorry. One question. I just want to ask you this. Do you believe what Ange says? Because it's actually driving me crazy when I actually think about it.
I think as Ali has said, I think he's massively contrarian. I think with regards to Ange, he'll say one thing one week, he'll then change his mind the next week. I don't believe it. I think sometimes he forgets what he says as well. I think he does forget what he says. I think what he make... Go on. Please.
No, I was going to say, sorry, it's actually pissing me off. I can't lie to you, because when I look at that team and I look at that starting 11, and it's exactly what we've been saying all summer, there's no one that's coming other than Nominate 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 that actually improves our starting 11. And I think Nominate 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸, he didn't score today, and there's question marks because he came from Bournemouth. He's a good player. Like you can see it, the movement, the touches, he's a good player. Like I'm not gonna, go crazy. He looked good and he looked like he fitted in and all of that, but I'm sorry, I can't believe the stuff I'm hearing when guys saying, in our second season, I always go for the league and this and that. And you're bringing in all these kids. With all due respect, where are the ready-made players? And even if you're not going to bring in like superstars, at least go out and get like, I don't know, like for example, you've got Gundogan at Barcelona who wants to leave. Go and get me a quality player that is still going to come in and improve our team. Like, I don't see it. And hoping and waiting and I'm hoping that if something comes up in the market, that's what we've done our whole career. And we've never actually got across the line.
But letting you come back on his point, Pat, it was revealed to us by Paul O'Keefe, who's been on here obviously a few times now. Paul made it abundantly clear Spurs went in and bid for Neto. Now, again, you can have your thoughts about bidding for Neto because of his injury record, which Jason McGovern has made very, very clear on this show. He didn't want him anywhere near the football club. Many looked at Neto and what he will bring to a team and thought he would be good for Tottenham. But I thought, again, it's very interesting how quickly we flipped from Pedro Neto to then Wilson Odegaard. With no disrespect, I think he will be a good, promising player for Spurs in the future. But just how quickly we shifted that. Because, again, if Odegaard was a genuine target, I mean, I know he appeared at the Olympics, but you could have got a pre-agreed deal done very early in the summer, had him as a player. But here Spurs are kind of, again, a few days before the season starts, signing a player that didn't have his permit approved ahead of the game, which I think tells me everything. I think with Ange, again, I don't want to force his narrative on people. It's not fair to. Everybody's got their own view on Ange very quickly, but I do feel, and maybe I'm wrong here, I feel the end of last season, the 5 defeats out of the last 7, the 4 wins in the last 10, I think for the board, I'm not saying they don't feel he's the right man. I feel that if he had a stronger end to the season, I think you may have seen 1 or 2 more players come in and directly affect the first team, where I feel just what they've done now, they've lowered the age profile for Ange Postecoglou, similar to what they did to Pochettino in that second season, bringing young, hungry players that will run for him, that will basically be right behind him in terms of a project. And I don't think it's a project that is geared up to win right now, which will upset Spurs fans, some of them, but some like a project. Again, I keep hearing a lot of people say they don't mind being part of a project, but I feel like my whole life supporting... I feel like we've
got no problem with that, Rick, but you just need to communicate that out
to the fans.
Don't be mixed messaging saying, "Oh, my second season, mate, we like, you know, and this is when I win stuff." You know, he needs to temper that. If the club's general ethos and thrust is bringing some young players that we're going to look to develop and then go for something, then he needs to temper that with his comments that he's saying. This, like, you know, everybody needs to be on the same song sheet with this, but that's just not the case. So, but do you know what? Also, Rick, I think we've got some really fine players at this club now, and I think that a better coach would get more out of them. To be honest, I have to be honest. Then I don't see him getting the most out of these current players that we've got. I think I do genuinely believe he's a little bit out of his depth. I think there's a few issues there at the moment. I'm not really that sold on Ange completely. I'd love to see him do well, but I think we've bought players that maybe would work under most managers should they come in, rather than buying like ready-made, ready-to-go, box fresh, here you go, here's an Ange type of player. That's not happened. We've brought young players in that are easily moulded by whatever type of manager comes. And I also think that the issue with Son is a big issue as well. I've not seen enough out of Son. To be honest, Rick.
And tell me if I'm wrong here, Craig. I don't think anyone's saying the manager needs to go now. I think what people are looking for, just to be very, very clear, 'cause it's really important that we get this very clear on this show, because, again, people's narratives and agendas can get really taken away from just a few words of what people say. I think what we're saying is that it's match day 1, it's game week 1. I think what we're saying on this show, and again, if I'm wrong here, Cracks, is that we're seeing similar frailties to last season. And ultimately, if we don't see a progression or change throughout the course of the season, it's going to be very, very difficult to feel as a fan this is going to be getting better. I don't think that's a wrong thing to say. I mean, tell me if I'm, again, Pat, you're nodding your head there. I'll let Lee answer this as well. But is that fair? I mean, I think we all want to be behind a manager and be behind a project. I know people think, oh, these Spurs fans, what are they like? You know, suddenly the going gets tough, they want to sack another manager. I don't think it's like that. But I think what we do want to see is a sign that things are gradually on an upwards trajectory and we're not just sitting still. And again, you could blame the ball for that, for not bringing in more proven players. I mean, but it is only match day 1. I think, Pat, and you've made that point. It's match day 1, Pat, right? Again, we have to give this time. It is a new season. It is a new group of players. There's new players that have come into a group. So I think it's really important we get the narrative out there, because I think some will twist it in any way which they want to. Nobody's saying, I think at the moment, correct me if I'm wrong, that Ange needs to go now. But what we do want to see, just to be again consistently clear on this point, is that there's an upwards trajectory of progression. Otherwise, everyone is absolutely within their rights to feel this is not the right guy right now, Pat. Is that fair?
It's 100% fair. Exactly what Cracker said is bang on. And you guys know I've said the same thing. I need to see progression, development, tactical tweaks in the second season. We saw it against Manchester City. We all were like, why now in this game of all games? But cool. You tried to win the game. I get it. You as a manager, you had pride. You didn't follow the fans' narrative and all of that. We get it. We were annoyed at the time, but we understand you're a man of your principles. You want to win first, blah, blah, blah. But then I see us against Leicester and he's just standing there. Steve Cooper reacted at 45 minutes at half time and changed things. Then why didn't we react to their changes? It bothered me when I'm seeing Brennan Johnson stink up the place. Son, we love him to death. He wasn't great. He played literally the whole game. Why is that? Why are you not tweaking things and making the changes? And if you then are making 4 subs in one go and do you really believe in the players that you've got on the bench when you're just spamming players on and hoping for the best? Where's the plan? Where's the game plan? I need to see more control in the middle of the park. I need to see us more defensively, more solid and stable. We were on the ropes against Leicester with that squad. I'm sorry, it doesn't lead me. It doesn't convince me that there's something there. And again, it's match day 1 and all of that stuff. But I can only talk on what I saw today. None of us are going overboard. This is what I saw today in today's game. And it just leads me to the same thing. Then if the board don't really trust Angela and bringing in players, all these players are great, but they're always 3 or 4 years away. We were doing this 3 or 4 years ago. So where are the players 3 or 4 years ago for today? They're all sold. They're all gone because they weren't good enough.
Sacked 4 managers. So, yeah. We sacked 4 managers on the. You can't have it both ways.
Honestly,
listen to all 3 of you talk about Ange.
But listen, Lee, we bought in 5
seconds. You want to sack another manager?
No, we don't want to sack.
We want to see. I know you do. No, we don't. You do. You want to get rid of another manager.
No, we don't.
Then go through the whole thing again. And then when it doesn't work again, because we've had another season of going through getting used to a new manager, you've got to be coming back on here going, do you know what? Ain't working. We want to sack another manager.
That's what we're saying, Lee.
Another one. It's unbelievable.
I thought, Mackie, you were disagreeing with me. I thought, Mackie, you were disagreeing with me that we do need to see some kind of upward trajectory in general for us to all feel that we're positively behind him. Otherwise,
I can't tell you how to feel. That's not on me. No. You have to feel how you want to feel.
Yeah.
But the reality of the situation, I'm hearing that we want to see change. We want to see tactical differences. We want to.
Yeah.
What would you have done differently? Bringing on 4 subs on that spamming subs. What would you have done differently? Maddison had a bit of a shocker after they scored. He wasn't the same player. We probably said, Maddison probably needs to change. And then, Porro was injured and Bentancur got his head injury. What would you have done in that situation? We've just come with 22 touches in the opposition box in the first half. We should have been 3 or 4 and up. We're actually playing really well. As a manager, what are you going to do differently that was on Ange today? Based on the resources that he's got. He brought Charleston on. He brought another attack on. He brought Bergvall, who's a baller. Hang on, let me finish. Right?
You asked us a question. You said, what would he have done?
He brought Bergvall on. Who's a baller. He brought Gray on. Who's apparently, the staff is amazing. What he done? What would you have done differently today to get a different result? And by the way, they had 3 shots on target. You said we're getting battered by Leicester. They had 3 shots on target. They only had 6 shots in the entire game. So we was not getting battered by Leicester. What happened was we've got an emotional reaction from a very disappointing result. That's what's going on.
Can I ask you though, Lee? Do you not agree that the momentum definitely switched in the second half? Where
that's football. That's why we love football. That's why it's an emotional game. That's football.
But I think the
what would you have done differently? That was my question. Yeah, sorry, Pat. What would you have done differently?
Go about. I'm going to go on that point.
Yeah. My thing is when at halftime you saw Steve Cooper made changes and he made tweaks. We lost control after Jamie Vardy scored. Yeah, Vardy scored in the 56th minute. I've got the notes here. We lost control of the game from the 57th to the 67th minute. They did in that moment, they battered us. They were all over us. We had no composure on the ball. Udogie was making mistakes. We were fouling. We couldn't get near them. They had a second wind. They were literally better in every department. Ange on the side needs to tell one of the players to make a foul, give us a timeout, and then he needs to bring someone in the middle of the park that can actually get on the ball and control it.
Can I say one thing though, Pat? This is why, Pat, I'm frustrated. This is why I'm frustrated though, Macca, on this point, and let Pat come back in here. They got that timeout with the Benton core incident that happened, and Macca, I don't mind for saying this, nothing really changed. If anything, really, towards the end of that game, Leicester were the ones in the ascendancy that were deserving of a winner, not Tottenham. And I think that's why, again, when you look at the frustration, I agree with you, Macca, it was only 3 shots on target by Leicester. The frustration is that should have been Tottenham at the end of that game, pushing for a winner. When you look at the 2 squads and the calibre of what's out there on that pitch, and it wasn't. The thing that I said, to be very clear at the start of the show about Ange, is that there'll be 2 camps. There'll be one camp that said, really, is this on Ange? Because we created so many chances in that first half where really, if we were 4-5-6-1 up, it wouldn't even be a discussion. It really wouldn't be a discussion. But the fact of the matter is that we don't take those chances. And again, that's where there is questions around the manager. That's not for me, general, to force my feeling on anybody else with regards to Ange. Everyone's got their own feelings about what they feel about the manager.
Of course.
And I think the reality is that everyone will make their own mind up in terms of what they feel for them is right. And I'll just bring Cracks if I can. Just very quickly, Cracks. I've got to ask you about James Maddison, because it is getting away from us here, as these shows will always do. It's match day 1. It's game week 1. I've got to get more control. I'm losing control. Maddison directly involved.
Oh, don't worry. I'm coming to ask Lee a question in a minute, by the way. I'm taking it straight back off track. Don't worry about that.
That's another hour. we might as well just stay until Wednesday, yeah? James Maddison, he's now directly been involved in 26 goals across his last 32 away games in the Premier League, 11 goals, 15 assists. But again, the concern is for James Maddison, as we actually said before this show, he's not actually played a full 90 during the pre-season. And this was the game where, again, I love Jason. Jason, you know we love you, mate. Jason said, I think, before this game, this is the kind of games where you feel James Maddison will want to turn up, first game back, want to prove a point to that next incoming England manager and run this game. And despite being involved for the assist and obviously the contribution to the goal, it says a lot to me that Ange Postecoglou is bringing James Maddison off the pitch. This is, got to say, this is not a dig at Ange Postecoglou. It's the point I'm making that James Maddison is one of the most creative players that are in the Premier League, and Ange Postecoglou is deciding to bring James Maddison off the pitch. Can you understand that? Is Maddison not to the level that he was when you look at those first 10 games of last season where he's running it? And will we get that player back, Cracks? Will we get him back?
Well, let's hope so. I mean, you know, there's been a lot of this. It's game day 1, relax in the comments that I've been seeing. But, you know, he hasn't had a full 90.
We are relaxed.
He's had, of course we are. It's just, you know, it's like, Rick, you know what it's like. If you turn around and say, I don't like cauliflower, everybody turns around and goes, why do you hate vegetables? You hate all vegetables.
I'll just say, I am calm, all right? I'm calm, all right?
No, listen, he had a good game, but he faded, didn't he? He's not had a 90 minutes. He's had a few injuries, and you know he's a decent player, but you've got to keep him fit, haven't you? So you know maybe they're managing him back with coming in for a first game. There's some things that you can kind of accept and understand in first games, and I think that was just one of those things where he probably saw he was a little bit leggy and then just tried something a little bit different with him. Yeah, there was a drop off from when we first signed him during last season. But as I said, there was injuries. We don't really know if he's fully moved on from those and probably needs a little bit of a pre-season within a season, if you like, to get back up to speed. But if he gets back to what he can be and who he can be, then I think we've got a really decent player there, to be honest. Yeah. So we're
that element of it, Crackers, is a worry as well, because what happens if you don't?
Yeah,
if you
well,
don't play
you know,
level.
Vin-
'Cause-
Vin-
You're meant to be the positive one for us here, Lee.
no,
You're-
it's not about being positive or negative. It's just about asking
I
the
know.
question.
Yeah.
I know,
It's
I know.
worrying.
But then you need the player
isn't
within the squad to come in and pick up the reins, don't you? So
like
but, you know,
another signing like Eze.
This goes
That's the
back
point,
to
isn't it?
my
That is
point,
the point.
though, isn't it? But everyone knows, Lee, as you've said on this show for such a long time, we are in need of that game changer. And could you just imagine, again, I don't want to go steer off track here too much because that's what we always do on this bloody show. Could you just imagine the feeling of having Eze in that squad, what that would do to everybody around the gaff, the Spurs fans going into the start of the season?
It would be amazing. But if Eze, I suppose this is the point I'm saying when I was emotional with Patrick, when us two were going at each other. You know, if Eze was in the side today and the result was still the same, are we still having the same conversation?
No, we want to sell Eze tomorrow.
Well, no, the point is we are.
Does that one player change everything? Is Eze a complete game changer to come in to this squad? That I don't think he's the silver bullet. I think there's more than that. I think there's tweaks and there's stuff that needs doing
100%.
tactically around this team. I mean, to come back to what Lee, I'll turn this like on its head with what I was saying. With the progress. Well, Lee, what have you seen in pre-season and tonight that's shown you a progress from where we was under Ange last season?
Pre-season difficult. I mean, we've still got the same problems in terms of set pieces, although we didn't concede one today, so that's pretty good. But yeah, in terms of pre-season, we've still got them same issues. I think that we've still got the same team, apart from Dominic Solanke. I think the starting lineup was disappointing for me. I thought that we would go with something different in midfield. But I don't think it's the progress in one game of football. Like I say, we did not in the last 5-10 games of last season. We didn't have 22 touches in the opposition box in half an hour. We didn't have 5 shots on target in 29 minutes of football. Like we didn't. Other than the first 10 games of last season, we definitely did, and we wasn't doing that at the back end of last season. So I've seen that. But look, I mean, the point you're making is a very strong point. It is, you can't sit there and go, I've seen 5, 6, 7 different things that I'm really happy about. But my point,
that's what I was hoping to see, though, Lee.
I know. But if you put the ball in the back of the net,
I was looking to see something a little bit different, not a little bit, probably a lot actually, tactically different and a little bit more astute and a little bit more nous. And I know people in the comments are like, oh, he's calling for the manager's head on game day one. I'm certainly not. But I said earlier in the show, if I'm still seeing this on match day 10 or 11, then that noise around what our progress is becomes louder and louder and louder. So, I'm hoping Ange sees this and maybe draws some counsel from his team of coaches, looks within himself with what he does, and those tweaks and changes come and start paying dividends. I'd love to see him do well. I think he's a really great guy. I like him. I like him as a person. I'd love him to be successful, because if he's successful, Spurs are successful.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't want anybody to come to Tottenham and fail, but I just need to see that little bit of progression. And on tonight's showing, I'm thinking to myself, I'm seeing a lot of last season again, and doesn't seem to be a lot of lessons learned. That doesn't mean I want him up the job centre tomorrow morning, but it's something to start maybe looking at as something that could be an issue.
Yeah, and I just think, look, just come back on that. I think, when you look at today's performance and you look at the stats that I've been throwing out the whole show, and how many we wasn't doing that at the back end of last season. and we were losing in games. We were really bad at corners, which we wasn't tonight. We were conceding terrible goals, which we conceded a bad goal today, but we wasn't creating that amount of chances. When you think back as well, in terms of you're talking about progression over the Ange side of things, when you think about our running stats, our shot creation stats, our creativity stats, go and dig them out. I wish we had them, Rick. Before Ange come in, we were 19th, 20th, 19th on all of these stats in terms of how bad we were in terms of front foot attacking, And then when Ange came in, we were first and second. I mean, and that is against Man United. That is Man City's. That is against the Arsenals. So we had a huge amount of change. It's a little bit like, for those of you who've been unfortunate enough to need to go on a diet, like my good self and most people, when you're quite a big person and you go on a diet, it's really easy to lose a stone quite quickly. But when you start to slim down and get thin, it's very hard. It's much harder to lose that amount of weight because you ain't got as much to lose. So it's a little bit like you see change happen quite quickly, and now our expectations are, oh, well, we can go again. We can go. Now it needs to be a bit more incremental. I suppose what you're saying is we're not seeing that incremental, whereas actually I'm saying, well, we're seeing a lot more attacks and a lot more shots we were tonight. But let's see. Like you said, it's one game. Let's see if we can. Last season we drew against Brentford. We went unbeaten in the first 10. Maybe we go and smash Everton 6-0, and all of a sudden it's changed. But how maybe we draw Everton and it gets even worse. I don't think change is easy for anybody and in any walk of life. And I think that's the point, is that if we really want to change, we have to go through this stuff. And I know you're not saying sack Ange, and I know you're saying you potentially got some doubts or whatever, but we can't keep. And I'm not saying any of you are flip-flopping or anyone else watching the channel's flip-flopping, but what you can't do, you cannot go again and sack another manager and start it again. It does not work.
Yes, we can. I'm only joking.
No, but do you know what I mean? It just, well, like I said, I'm not telling you how to feel, but it doesn't work. All we're going to do, again, is be in a situation. You say, what are we looking at doing? When Poch comes in, he's a brilliant reference point because of where he took us. And we still didn't go over the line. We all know that. But when Poch came in, he got rid of the deadwood. The squad was an average age. It was average age about 29, 31, 30, something like that. He got the average age down to 24.7. Okay. The first game of the title challenging against Leicester, he lost. Yeah. Let me tell you the statistics, right? We played Manchester United away. We lost 1-0 to a freaking own goal. I mean, you could not make this stuff up. This is blatant Spurs, innit? We had 4 shots on target. Do you know how many shots they had on target? They had 1. And they didn't even score that because we gave them an own goal. And yet we still had a title challenge by the end of that season with Leicester. Do you see what I mean? So progress can be happening, and it is only on one game. But obviously I can't tell you how to feel. What I feel is extremely frustrated that we didn't beat a promoted team. Extremely frustrated. And also even more compounded by the fact that we battered them in the first half and we should have been 4-5-0 up. But the points that we've raised tonight about the recruitment, you can't argue with. You can't argue. We had one player in that starting lineup that was different to last season. So how is that going to change everything?
We are going to come on to summarise on the second half very quickly because of the nature of this show. I never thought we could, with this amazing panel, we're never going to get it done in an hour and a half, are we? Let's be honest about it. We're going to try and summarise if we can. Pat, before I bring you in, Spurs should have been second to the good. James Maddison's free kick found Johnson at the back post. He voided the ball across the 6-yard box, but no one could touch it in. Bizarrely, Brennan Johnson actually won more duels, 6, and made more tackles, 5 than any other Tottenham player in that first half. And just to back up Lee's point earlier about the stats and how good Spurs were in that first half, is that Spurs had 70% possession. We touched upon the fact created plenty of chances. No sign of more shots on target than Spurs in this first of a Premier League game in the opening weekend of the 24-25 season. And when you look at the way Spurs started the second half, Sarr did actually brilliantly to get back and deny a Cordova read before the offside flag went up. It was terrific covering. Another chance in for Solanke. Good movement from the striker. Sarr found him, but his shot was pushed away by the keeper. Another chance in after that. This time Bentancur. And we're getting that feeling, Pat, coming to you that, you know what, we've got to make one of these count soon. And then, bang, Jamie Vardy, scoring for Leicester. And if I can just make this point, if you look at the goal of what Spurs conceded in now, for our watching audience, we're going to put you a still up in terms of the way Spurs conceded that goal. Pat, come over to you. He's alone, all alone at the back post, heading Fatahou's cross. And the concern which many will point up is the fact that there's so much space, Pat, between Romero and Porro all for him. And at this point, really, Spurs should have been out of sight. And, you know what, as good as Spurs have been, and they had been great up until the goal, there was that feeling, and this goes back to pre-season, they always look susceptible to conceding, even if this was, to go back to Lee's point, Leicester's first real chance of the game. It was their first shot on target, and Jamie Vardy has now got 9 goals, a career high for him against Spurs. Pat, did it feel inevitable, even though Leicester did not have a shot on target, that the first time they broach us, they're going to score?
It did, unfortunately, and the reason being is because we know that we've got a soft underbelly, and we always concede chances, or at least, you know, when's the last time we kept a clean sheet? I can't really remember. It might have been like the last game of the season.
Sheffield United, and
they were done and dusted.
Let me bring you in this point,
really,
Pat.
Yeah.
I think we've now not kept a clean sheet 11 of the last 12 games.
There you go. Sheffield United, probably away. They were already done and dusted. They had nothing to play for. Cool, we beat them. But whenever we last kept a clean sheet in a game that meant something, I mean, every game means something, but brand new season, away, you know, you would expect to at least keep a clean sheet. And if we're not going to keep a clean sheet, after we conceded, that should have been the wake-up call. And I didn't really see the impetus from us to really go and get that second and third goal and really kill them off. After they scored, we were on the ropes. Like, we were really dodgy. Like, everyone looked like they'd lost a yard or two. Defending was really woeful. People couldn't get on the ball and make it stick. And I was just thinking, wow, we're actually going to lose this game from being in such an advantageous position. It was insane what happened. And yeah, I mean, when you go back to the goal, Pedro Porro was miles off Vardy. Romero lost him. There was no communication. And it is, you know, Vardy's a very good player. He's a top striker. But we're going to come up against much better players with much better movement across the whole front three, across the whole front four than just Jamie Vardy. And that's something that we need to really wake up. And it annoys me because, like, it's the same sort of goals that we're conceding, and it's like when Crackers is saying about Ange, why is this not getting relayed to the team? Like, how many times do we have to concede the same sort of goal before we wake up? If we can see it, how can they not see it? And if they, you know, these are top tier professionals, they're all, you know, internationally rated, they all played at Champions League, Euros, Copa Americas, blah blah blah, but they're making such simple and silly mistakes, and it's game in and game out, and that's what irks me. And I don't know, man. It's like before the game, even they said it, as in, like, when I say they, as in Jamie Carragher and
Gary Neville.
They said, like, when you look at that back four, that's a top back four. Most team and the goalkeeper, most clubs would love this back four, but yet when they're all fit and available, we still concede so many goals. And they're like, why is that? And we can't blame the fact that we didn't have a number 6 today, because number 6 isn't going to stop that defensive line being so far apart. I don't know, you know, obviously it's early days. I know we keep saying this, but these are things that should be worked on in the training pitch, on the training ground, and they're not. And all it takes is for a good player to have a bit of movement, and they're free, and Jamie Vardy's never going to miss that. And you know, as much as people get onto Vicario, if it wasn't for Vicario, we lose that game today, man. He made some crucial
saves. He made a really important save.
Yeah, like at crucial moments. Like, honestly, he was really good today. Like,
Pat's hitting the nail on the head. These are the progressive small changes we need to start seeing. You know, it's all very well that we've had more touches in the box and we have more chances, and if we bury them on another day, then it's not even an issue. But that it is literally that belt and braces plan B of, okay, well, then if we don't bury these, we better make sure we're doing our job at the back. You've got to be doing the job up front, which we are doing, but you've got to be doing it at the back as well. And this is the progress I'm not seeing. It's the same old frauties. And, you know, this is where my doubts come in with Ange, is that he just doesn't seem to have that in his locker. He's got this gun-ho, get forward, get shots off, go type of mentality, he has to get that right at the back as well. He just absolutely has to, because this Premier League will find you out. They really will. If you get lucky, like Leicester did today, that we didn't have our shooting boots on, or we missed a couple of sitters, then, at the back, be on it, because probably you're the most vulnerable when you're so dominant. You end up napping a little bit almost. You can't do it. You just cannot do it. You will get punished every time. That's the progress I'm not seeing. That's what worries me. That's a worry for a future going forward.
Many would argue Cracks have been napping for about 20 years. Look, I'll tell you what. Well, come on, let's say we've discussed the Vardy guy. I don't want to do it definitely more, but I think, Pat, you made a great point at the start of the show, and we got you, bless you, finally, that, we've got that recurring theme of not being killers in front of goal. And that's a really bad trait that we've got to somehow shake. And we all hope Nominate 𝐂𝐨𝐴𝐽𝐾𝐬 is the man to absolutely shake that. Now, come around 60 minutes later, Bentancur had a great chance in the box, actually trying to put obviously Spurs 2 up. And again, that kind of shows you everything. Leicester got the other end and score. Great save from Vicario to deny Vardy after a lovely Leicester move. And there was that concern around Rodrigo Bentancur, who went down after a collision from a corner. Medical staff were called up frantically. Players were standing around him. He looked to be moving, but players were genuinely worried around him. He eventually sat up before being stretched off with an oxygen mask. The good news is Bentancur was up and talking in the dressing room. And although leaving the field on a stretcher with oxygen, a horrible way to really end what was I think it was a positive night for Bentancur. I think, again, we've had speculation definitely around here on this show that we were maybe wondering if he's got a long-term future under Spurs. I think, to be fair, that guy just can't catch a break, can he? Every time he goes to play, he's knocked over and he's leaving the field on a stretcher. But Ange said after the game, look, I don't have too much information, but I know he's up and communicating, so he's fine from that point of view. But obviously with a head injury, and I'll leave it in the hands of the medical team, the key thing is that he's definitely conscious and communicating, which is the key thing. So we wish Rodrigo all the very, very best. We'll have to see if he's involved against Everton, because he did leave the pitch with a head injury. I mean, we touched upon that. Raft the subs that Spurs made, the quadruple subs. I called it a panic sub. Many would maybe say he's just trying to change and find a solution. He made the subs. From that point, it was a vital tackle by 𝐂𝐨𝐴𝐽𝐾𝐬 after he split it back to the Spurs box. We then had Richarlison and Spence on for Son and Porro. Again, 𝐂𝐨𝐴𝐽𝐾𝐬 with a needless foul on Johnson. Van der Ven pointed to his head and told his teammate to stay focused. They were only really having a couple of minutes left to find a winner. Spurs free kick. 𝐂𝐿𝐴𝐽𝐾𝐬 rolled Faye. It was a great pass from Spence to set him up. But we're going to be able to say to you again that, as Pat touched upon, without Vicario in the back sticks there, I mean, Spurs could have lost that game. And look, it is a point. It does feel like 2 points dropped, but it is only match day 1. And I think, again, I will go back to the point that somebody said earlier on the show in one of the comments, that we started off last season with a draw and we were top after 10 games. And I'm not trying to delude you. I'm not trying to tell you we're going to win the league. All I'm saying to you is that the first game of the season doesn't have to define what the rest of it holds. But I think what you've heard in this show for the last hour and 40 is a mixture of views that, again, I think will tell you we're not quite there just yet. Crackers.
It's gone. It's gone. Ange at the back. He's fallen down. Ange knows. That Cracks is after him. Look. He wants to go.
He's already trying to get out on match day 1, the poor bloke. He's urging Crackers. The Spanish Inquisition has begun. The bad feelings and vibes are drawing that poster off the wall. And as much as Crackers tries to put it back on, it will drop off again, Crackers. You cannot
stay there, Ange. You stand there. You stay there. I might need you to change a little bit, but you just stay there for now. Just for now.
Hold on. Steady, mate. Steady, mate. That was the worst accent.
But do rest assured, I have got the 𝐂𝐴𝐽𝐾𝐬 poster just the other side of my backdrop, ready to go.
Oh, God, he wasn't lying. We're going to have to go get those play your cards rights. I have to get them revalued again with 𝐂𝐴𝐽𝐾𝐬 on there. We can't do that. Look, guys, I got to say, it's been always an emotional show. You guys are amazing. There's a reason why they are called the A-team. Let's just get a final feeling on the back of, obviously, that result going into Everton. It does feel now that's quite a big game for Spurs. They're all big games. I'm not trying to big it up as a a 6-pointer or Spurs have got to win it or they're under massive pressure. But in the context, Macca, we'll start with Pat. We'll then work our way around. Pat, will come to you. In the context of the season, we're one game in. It's a draw. It's not what we all wanted. It's not the result we expected, maybe, given that first half. But, I mean, Everton, I don't know why I'm saying this. I can just feel Costa listening and going, we don't say that. Everton are on the floor right now. They have just lost 3-0. I'm going to get Costa calling me now from a sports bar in bloody Porto Rico, wherever he's in IB for somewhere, saying, don't say that. Don't say that. They are on the floor, Pat. We have to beat Everton the weekend, right, to make up for the point tonight. Is that fair, Pat?
100%. I mean, forget where Everton are and what's going on. We need to beat them.
You're right.
It's our first home game. And obviously, we need to make it a cool draw and a fortress, get down there, good vibes, and just, hopefully we see more of that first half, but with a bit more ruthlessness. You could see Dominic Solanke looked, it's his first game, at a new club, maybe snatched at a chance or two that within a week or so, he just effortlessly goes across the keeper, slots that into the bottom corner, or he gives the keeper the eyes and rolls it into the near corner. Those sort of things. Hopefully Brennan Johnson finds his touch again and he can actually take his man on and whip him across. Hopefully Sonny has a bit more impact in the game. These things, maybe Bentancur might be a game too soon, but Basuma, fingers crossed, he's back and he steps in and he does what he does. Burvell comes on and, does some nice movements and rolls again. Kulusevski maybe starts and we just go on and win the game, and then you just take it from there, brick by brick, block by block. And it is a long season. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Obviously, we didn't lose today. Imagine if we would have lost today. I can't even fathom.
God, I don't want to think about that.
Considering the reaction from a draw, away from home, it is mental. But yeah, it's obviously frustrating because that game was there for the taking. And obviously, if you stink it up and you get a 1-1 draw, you're like, you know what, let's just take it and run. But the fact that we should have had them literally 3, 4, 5 1s at least, that's where the frustration comes in, especially when a guy who wasn't even fit to play comes in and scores. And then is giving it to the crowd as well. I can't believe Vardy, if I want to beat him up, man, I can't believe it. He's coming off and bantering us. I'm like, this guy. He annoys me so much. He winds me up. Don't get me wrong, he's a good player. I love him as a footballer, but I just the cheek of you to be trying to banter us. Really, Leicester? It's crazy. You was in the Championship last year, relax. But then we allowed him to score. So it's I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, we'll win on Saturday, man.
We have to bounce back.
Win, and then we take it from there. So yeah.
Pat made that point. Can you imagine if we didn't? Imagine if this was a defeat. I mean, we've just drawn the game. It feels like a crisis session. We've just begun. We can't have a crisis game. We've just put a new intro out. We can't chase a banjo already. Do you know how much that bloody cost me? Right. We're going to go to Crackers, then we're going to close with Lee. Crackers, I find it fascinating that Spurs are probably the only club that could discipline a player themselves in Basuma. They'd have no choice but to immediately reinstate him, not because he deserves it, because we've got a player that's got a horrendous injury in Bentancur that's got to recover now. I mean, such a classic Spurs moment. We need Basuma in the lineup for the weekend. I mean, can't make it up. Cracks. It's like I say, I think you made some really important points tonight. We all want to see an upward trajectory. We all want to see we're making progress. What do you need to see for you, Cracks? You made a really good point. In these next 9-10 games, we are just the start of this again. I know people think, we're starting again already. But, we are again at the start of a second season. What do you need to see, Cracks, for you in these 9-10 games coming up that will give you the confidence that we are on the right track?
I just want to see us be a little bit more streetwise, a little bit more thoughtful, some little tweaks and changes for just there's nothing terribly wrong. And I completely agree with Lee. You can't be sacking yet another manager and starting yet another project. It's like, you've got to stick with something and go through. You're going to get moments of pain and that, but all I want to see is just gradual steps of progression. That's all I want to see. Just wising up on a few different things, seeing stats of less set pieces, conceded and conceding from, and at the defense, at the back, just being a little bit more tweaked and tuned in. And if you do go 2-0 up, then you don't need to really go 3-0 up. Now, I'm not saying I'd like to see Conte back, because I know that's what's coming in the comments where I said we need to maybe be a little bit more wise at the back. Oh, you want to see Conte back? It's that whole thing.
Another alibi.
Honestly, it's just like, you dare to sort of suggest something, and it's like, it's not black and white. There is a lot of grey in thinking.
Yeah,
You
so
can be grey on things. You don't have to be black or white. You can be the darker end of grey or the lighter end of grey. Just some little bits and pieces. So that's basically what I want to see, is just us progressing under Ange, bringing through these young players. They are going to make some mistakes. You have to allow for those, and just also be a little less emotional in games. It's just we just seem to be so emotional. We are as a fan base. We are as a team, and the ruthlessness as well really needs to come with. I mean, a lot of people have mentioned Sonny tonight, and we've skirted around him.
Sonny.
Do you know what? In these next 9 to 10 games, if he's off of it, and he was tonight, by the way, and he has been for a little while, if he's off of it, then you drop him. I know that football today, there's a lot of pressures and he brings in a lot of money, but if he's not doing it football-wise, then sit him on the bench.
Yeah,
you have to be that ruthless, and he is the elephant in the room. He's just not been enough as a player, and certainly not enough as a captain. So if I see Ange take that to task and deal with that and go, Sonny, you're miles off of it, I'm going to give you a couple of weeks rest and try something a bit different. These are the things I want to see. I want to see him taking charge of the problems. If he's getting some heat from upstairs because, there's a couple of thousand people coming to spend a good few grand in the club shop that are expecting to see him, well, cheese, guess what? This is football. And if you ain't tearing it up on the pitch, you ain't deserving of your place. So these are the things, these are the little things I want to see. I want to see him managing and dealing with those things and progressing. And then I think you might have something and we can get somewhere, especially with these young players coming through. I think there's some fantastic, terrific talent coming through at the club. I really do.
I totally agree, Cracks. If we can sprinkle that young players with a little bit of stardust, a little bit of experience, I think we can still have a really good season. Again, we've had a draw in the first game of the season. It's not like we've gone and lost the game 5-6-1. It does need to be some, I think, balance to that. The man of balance, the man who will always try and keep us on an even keel, is Mr. Lee McQueen. Before I just remind everybody out there, Cracker's got loads of events coming up. You'll hear him during his shows, obviously on our audio. So please make sure you go and check them out. Loads of shows coming your way. Please go and check that out. And just an update for those on audio, the poster is back up, and it's showing no signs of dropping down as we switch to Lee McQueen for the close on this show. And again, we talked about some of the performances from earlier. Again, we've covered Son now, which I'm glad we did there, because I think there has been a lot of heat on Son in our comments of this show, which audio listeners won't see. But I think, like for a lot of the players, we need to see that consistency that we're searching for, Macca. And I think, again, when you look at some positives, Bentancur was like an anchor, a shining light in that midfield for long periods in that game before the injury. James Maddison definitely in the first half looked like the old James Maddison back. We have to, I think, mention that again to try and bring some balance to the show. Nominate 𝐤𝐴𝐴𝐿𝐴𝐴 worked ever so hard. I think we can't get away from that. And Ange actually mentioned that in his post-match as well. I think, again, we are always, as you know, when I come to you, mate, to close this, we're searching for that balance. We're one game in. Really importantly, we don't get too carried away. The window is still open for improvements. Not that we're going to make improvements, but, we've got a big game at the weekend. We need to get a win, and hopefully, I feel like week to week on this show, we're just trying to keep things on track, Lee. Is that fair? I don't know anymore.
Yeah, look, I think there's loads to look forward to. In Poch's second season, and the title-winning season, here's a nice omen for you, Rick. I know you like a little bit of reflection on Poch. We've already reflected on his first game, which was a defeat to an own goal for Manchester United after dominating play. The second was a home match against Stoke City, who had more shots on goal than us and the same amount of shots on target as us. And we drew 2-2. So there's an omen for you. So Poch's second season, he lost his first game and drew his second game against Stoke City. And we still had a title charge that season. So let's see where we go on that. Look, I think at the end of the day, it's very disappointing. I think that there is loads to improve and lots to work on. And I think Pat and Crackers, obviously good self, all the comments made some brilliant points about some of the key areas that we need to improve. But I think the nature of these shows just done straight after, it does get forgotten what we did do in the first half, which was
very true.
pretty outstanding. I mean, to be fair to Pat, he did say it was exceptional. And it was, and we all agreed with that. And I think we've got to think about that side of things rather than the negative stuff. Because at the end of the day, if we go and play like that, and we didn't for 90 minutes, but if we go and play like that for 90 minutes and improve that goal scoring, we will blow teams away. And actually, if we'd have taken them chances and we were 4-0 up, that game is done. And all of a sudden, we're thinking, holy cow, where are we going? And so they are the fight. Holy cow, we are way. It's 1:15 in the morning.
We've got.
So I can say shit, I suppose. But holy shit, we're going somewhere, right? So you've got to think about it in that way as well. But look, raw emotions, and we're all looking at that as well. So at the end of the day, you got to think about. I was defending Ange earlier. I'm not saying he's indefensible. I'm not saying that you shouldn't criticise him or whatever. Sorry, I think you can. I think you should. But I'm backing the bloke because I do actually think he's the real deal, and I do see some real similarities with Poch's first few seasons, with Klopp at Liverpool, with Arteta at Arsenal. All of them getting the criticisms, all of them in the forums. Just, the balance. Is he right? Is he not right? That's because change is happening and change is difficult. And once we get through this part, we can go. Look, would not surprise me if you're right and he gets sacked before Christmas, right? It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. His club, but it's the absolute crazy trains. Why I mentioned it. Right,
I think ever since Lee, you called the show that. Not that it's your fault, mate.
It's crazy though.
It's a basket case. It's a basket case.
But equally, it is a crazy train. But equally, it wouldn't surprise me if we go on and do some good things. It's not as bad as it feels, and it's not as good as it sometimes feels. There's always something in between, and that's what Crackers was saying earlier. I think with some tweaks, with some tunes, is Eze all of our problems? Probably not. But if he came in, it would be absolutely incredible. And the momentum shift. So sometimes you just got to remember that we have a massive voice. I know a lot of people. That's right, Tom. You go get that fella. But look, sometimes you've got to remember that I've forgotten what I was going to say now. So I'll just summarise by saying this. Sometimes you've got to remember that progress is happening behind the scenes and stuff that we can't see, and hopefully that transforms onto the pitch.
It might be growing pains. It might just be these growing pains that we have to go through. I hope so.
Not. Gary Megson's on the way. There you go. Look, Megson's already on the poster.
I can't get this seriously.
Superimposed.
I tell you what, I've got to say again a massive thank you. There's been over. It sounds staggering to say this because again, when you think about the stadiums out there,
he's coming home. He's coming home. He's coming. Megson's coming home.
Can't do this on game one. We can't. Look at Pat. He looks in astonishment. We can't do that on game one. Even Pat, I think even Pat would give up if we brought him in charge. Look, it's been over. It's hard to believe this. There's been over 10,000 of you that have watched this show throughout, starting from X on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. We can't thank you enough already. I know people laugh when I say this. We've got to try and bring this show lengths down. I know you're all going to say you've got a cheek saying that.
The irony.
I know. I'm the cheek to say that. We've got to bring this show lengths down. We're approaching 2 hours. We are going to love and leave you. I want to say a massive thank you to. We finally got the Wi-Fi. So look how beautiful he's looking. Patrick Tyrant's back in the house. Patty, thank you so much, my man. Go and check him out on the YouTube. Go and check him out on X, on Insta, wherever he is. Patrick Tyrant, at Patrick Tyrant. Go and check him out. He's back very, very soon. We've got to save these guys. It's a 60-game season. We've got to wrap them in cotton wool, right? Crackers is back. Crackers, thank you so much. The poster's back up for now. Let's see how long it remains up. Make sure you go and check out all of Crackers' upcoming gigs. Go and find him on X, on Instagram for all the latest ones. He's got a legend coming to you very, very soon or near you. It will be with the man himself. Crackers, thank you so much. Macca, thank you. Well, there you go, guys. Match day 1 in the bag. We've got more coming your way. We have. Listen, thank you so much for all your support. It's not really therapy on day 1, is it? Again, we can't thank you enough. Love to you all. We'll be back with you before you know it. From myself, from Maccas, from Patty, from Crackers. We've been the Last Word on Spurs. We urge you to keep safe, keep well, and as always, come on you Spurs.